Hello, everybody. It's Thursday night. You know what that means? That means it's time for that SEC Powers Hour. Now, I know this may look a little weird, right? I'm here by myself feeling all kinds of lonely, but hopefully that will change. Joe gave me a heads up. He's running just a few minutes late, but he does intend to be here. And as we do every week, we have a nice little slate of games that we're going to pick for you. I'm shuffling my cards around right now because we had some upheaval in the season-long race for the Big Silver. You all know, the one that Joe conveniently took home with him after coming to visit us a couple of weekends ago. He just took it on back to the house with him. Still can't believe he did that to me. Did me wrong right there. But it's good to see everybody in the chat here. I appreciate y'all being here with us off the top. I've already said hello to Carol and Tim. Thank you guys for being here. I see Daniel's in here. Thank you for that. Like I said, Joe's going to be here. And if everything comes together the way we had hoped, we might actually have a big surprise for you guys tonight. But we're just going to play it by ear, see if it pans out. If it does, outstanding. Like I said, y'all know how we get down. We're going to take our time, run through the games. I'm looking at the list right here in front of me right now. I haven't done the count. So let's see. It looks like we're going to end up with somewhere in the neighborhood of like 14, 15 games we're going to pick this week. So that's good stuff. Still Supreme One's in here with us. I appreciate everybody, especially you guys who come on over for the podcast on Wednesday night and then decide to come back and stick with us here on Thursday, because it's a nice little follow-up, and I hope it offers you guys a change of pace, you know? Because on that night, Wednesday night, when we do the pod stream, that one is more, here we go, I've got something to say, and I kind of work my way through it. And I don't get to chat it up with you guys as much as I'd like, but on Thursdays, we sort of throw all the rules out the window and we do whatever we feel like doing, and that's usually a whole lot of fun. I can go ahead and tease a couple things for you tonight, though. This week, our game of the week, once Joe gets here, we're going to settle in and we're going to talk about LSU and Texas A&M. It's a game that has been sneaky in its importance, because here we are heading into week 9, and you might ask yourself, who, out of all the teams in the SEC, who are the teams that are the kings of the conference, or who would be king of the conference here after we are now a 16-team league? And I, like most people back at media days, said, well, it's probably going to be Georgia or Texas or maybe Alabama or something like that. You know, we all had a handful of teams that we thought might be able to make it into that conversation. And there were a few teams, a few people out there who said, yeah, watch out for LSU. They could pull things together. Watch out for Texas A&M. They have a new coach. Maybe that was the key to them actually getting it right. And it's really interesting, and it's something that you might hear me say more than once tonight, that Texas A&M, everybody really wants, or wondered rather, why they were not being more successful inside the conference, because there's no reason for them to not be successful. They do not lack for money. They do not lack for resources. They do not lack for in-state talent base. They should be able to recruit, develop, and then win at a very high level inside the SEC. Turns out that the problem all along may have been the person that they had invested in to be their head coach in Jimbo Fisher. You take Jimbo out of the picture, who seems like by the time he was done at Texas A&M was a bit washed anyway. You remove him, bring in Mike Elko, who is a no-nonsense, follow the rules, knows ball kind of head coach. And here you have Texas A&M sitting there with one loss, undefeated inside the conference, playing a game against who's on the other side? LSU. So now you have a combination of teams sitting at the top of the table who have a chance to do something that, for the most part, folks just didn't expect they would be able to do this year. And honestly, it's been a whole lot of fun to watch. And as I mentioned, Joe's going to get in here with us. We're going to talk about all that, but life happens and he's running a little bit late. But as I mentioned, we might have a surprise, and it looks like we will. You know, Joe has had the good fortune of meeting a few people over the years, and occasionally the people that Joe has run into, well, they can help us out in bringing you the very best in coverage of the SEC. That's what's going to happen tonight. Since Texas A&M is hosting LSU, and we had Chris Blair on the show a couple weeks ago for a big home game down at Death Valley, we thought what would be better than hearing from the voice of the Texas A&M Aggies. That would be one Andrew Monaco. And we reached out to Andrew, asked him if he wouldn't mind coming and sitting in with us for just a few minutes, and he was kind enough to say yes. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome in Andrew Monaco, voice of the Texas A&M Aggies. How are you doing, good sir?
I am doing well. Can I say this? Saturday can't get here fast enough.
You are telling me. I mean, obviously, this is a Georgia-based channel, so we are coming off a big win, this last Saturday against Texas. I don't know if you want to say thank you.
All the Aggies were rooting for Georgia now.
There you go. See, I was wondering how long it'd take for you to be like, yeah, there you go. So they're coming off a big win, a good performance, and then we're rolling into a bye week ahead of the Gators, right? And don't get me wrong, we hate the Gators. But now we've got 2 weeks to fill. So I'm sitting here talking a lot of Texas. And the Texas people, to their credit, for the most part, since the game, have been really good when they show up on our pages, But they are asking questions like, why are y'all still talking about Texas? Well, man, we haven't moved on. We don't have a game Saturday. But now trust me, once we get to Saturday, it's going to switch. It'll be all Gators all the time. So they don't have to hear from us much longer.
Look, I'm going to tell you what the Aggies were able to do. They were able to run into the bye week. That's what Mike Elko wanted them to do. Run into the bye week. They did that after beating Missouri. You love having that. The danger becomes, careful how many people are patting you on the back, right? You have that. Yeah. Vanderbilt had to face the same thing, beating Alabama, right? But you get that. Perfect for Kirby Smart. You do that, and then you come out of the bye week, you get to do your work, and you come right back into one of the great rivalries in college, Georgia, Florida. I mean, it's just, I don't know if you could have done any better. The thing that gets me is like, schools can't wait to be ranked number one. Mm-hmm. Then they lose. It's like, why are you still talking about us? You can't have it both ways. You want it one way or the other. You can't always be the underdog. And I think it's one thing I give LSU a ton of credit coming into this game, right? Whoever has been coaching, Les Miles, Nick Saban, Ed O, right? Brian Kelly, now, whomever. There is a lot of expectation. Times 10 wins isn't enough for them and their fans. I'm talking about that. So they embrace those expectations, right? You get it. For Mike Elko and Texas A&M, okay, it's changed a little bit. Your expectations have changed a little bit going into this game. For them, it's week number 8. That's how it's supposed to be. You don't want to just play in these games, Mike says. You want to win games like this, but give yourself an opportunity to play these games. That's what he has told his team. You've given yourself an opportunity to play number 8 as number 14 at home in Kyle Field.
That's right. It's a wonderful setup. And I really appreciate the fact that you laid it out for everybody with a little bit of a Georgia angle there to make it relatable, right? To sort of set the table for where Texas A&M is right now. This is the show where we spread out across the conference, though, and I'm not sure what you heard right off the top there. So I do want to throw the slate back up on the screen here and just let everybody see it. I mean, this is our game of the week, right? You have Connor Wegman, and he is squaring off against Garrett Nussmeier. Those are the two names that even the most casual SEC fan might know. And as I bring you back in here to the 3-shot, Andrew, I do want to welcome in the other half of that SEC Powers Hour, my brother Joe. He made it to the chair. So there you go. We are now at full strength. We're ready to rock and roll this thing. Okay, you can let that go.
What's up, Andrew? How you doing, brother?
How are you, Joe? How are you, my friend?
Man, I'm glad to see you here because I name drop you all the time, and I'm like, my boy from Texas A&M. I gotta go with my boys.
Yeah, so, you run to everybody I owe money to, don't you? I know that's how that works. It's like, you get to talk to them. I've ignored. They're always calling me, and I just got to ignore that call. You know what I mean? I'm hitting decline on my phone. Good to be with you guys. Brother. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man,
Yes,
this is
sir.
fun. This is fun. So let's go ahead. I'm just going to give it back to you for a second here. Again, as I mentioned off the top, and I'm not sure if you heard it, it seems like the problem at A&M was never the money, never the resources, never the recruiting base. You had to find somebody to drive the ship, and it seems like that all you needed to do was offload your old head coach. I'll let you name him if you want to. I'm not going to bother. And then put somebody in there who is a ball-knowing, hard-nosed, all about the X's and O's kind of guy who's going to demand a certain level of excellence from his players, get them to show up every day, and now you've got a team that's at the top of the table here in the league. Now, that's me from sitting over here in Georgia.
Right.
How wrong am I about what
No.
I just said? And is there anything else that you think we ought to know about Texas A&M as now you're on the big stage here inside the conference game of the week? What are we going to see?
You see a team compete. I guarantee you that. I can't tell you if they're going to win or not. I guarantee they're going to compete for 60 minutes because that's what Mike Elko will do. It's interesting. Mike Elko was Jimbo Fisher's DC. And for 4 years, it was going this way. Mike had to leave to come back. A lot of success at Duke. You guys know, not easy to do what he just did. I found it interesting that at Mississippi State, they honored the 2014 team. Dak Prescott came back. Dan Mullen came back. David Cutcliffe was back there. There's a guy who had success at Duke, right? Steve Spurrier had some success. The thing that really amazes me, I shouldn't say amazes, but not surprised, because I'm not surprised. He left Duke in good shape as well. But Mike came back and understands because he has coached at Texas A&M. And if you talk to any of his players, whoever played for Mike Elko from 2018, 19, 20, and 21, they will tell you they use words like genius and mad scientist. They love playing for him, the adjustments that he makes, but it comes down to accountability. And when there was something that went wrong, Mike said, look in the mirror, don't point fingers. And I think there was some finger pointing the last couple of years. Look, the trajectory of 2021 still going up the last 2 years, and Mike has not so much embraced, but he will not ignore this was a 12-13 team the last 2 years. How do you change it? By going and playing like this. Consistency of message over the 8 months, and then you kick off against Notre Dame and you realize that wasn't enough. You lose by 10. Great game. It's 13-13 in the fourth quarter. You lose 23-13. What are you going to do about it? I know it's McNeese, but you cleaned up a lot. And then you go on the road to Florida, and you cleaned up even more. And for a team that had lost 10 straight true road games in the SEC, to go dominate Florida, I got to be honest, that's what they did. They had the running game there. The defense was there. I know they were battling with the two quarterbacks then for Florida, but you did it with Marcel Reed. Mike uses this word. How much strain, how much effort. You see grind there on the field at Kyle Field. But you don't know how much strain and effort it takes to win until you use that strain and effort and win. And then you realize, oh, that's what he's talking about. And then that continued rise. Were they great against Bowling Green? No. But they won that game. That was big. Were they great against Arkansas? No. But they responded in that game. That was one of the keys. Were they great against Missouri? Yeah. I'll be honest. Yeah, they were. And that was kind of the outlier in the SEC. You don't get games like that very often. It was complete. And that's where the confidence to me really comes in a game like that. You could see a lot of the elements of what we thought going in. We knew this defense was going to be good. Was it going to be that good? Was this D-line going to be good? Yeah. Was it going to be that good? Overwhelmed Mississippi State in the second half. But now that's the standard, right? That's how you have to play all the time. I'll take you guys off the field on Saturday and take you to Monday through Friday in the Coolidge practice fields. Mike gets mad at them if they're not running 90% on special teams. You've run this fast in the past. You got to do that here on the practice fields if you think you're going to do that on Saturday on that. Just those little messages that get there. And he is really good at relating to players. There's a lot of honesty there. There's a lot of honesty. It's never personal. It's on here. Here's what you want to hit. Again, look in the mirror. You messed up? Look in the mirror. Fix it. Here's the honesty. And he'll say, hey, we're good. Can get better. Hey, we weren't good. Need to clean that up. There's that. I think they're ahead of schedule, but I'm not really surprised because if you remember Mike Elko defenses when he was here, got better every year. And the more and more this team gets comfortable under, and I say, Mike, it's a Jay Bateman defense. I have to be really fair as the DC. The more and more they get comfortable, the more fun this defense starts playing because it's aggressive. There's pressure. It's coming, but we're not telling you who we're sending.
Right.
To me, it's a lot of fun. It's nice because it's a bit of a throwback. And I was honest with Mike. I told him, yes, you had to leave to come back. But a lot of those facilities, right, that are built was because he was the DC with Jimbo Fisher. And there was a lot of excitement about Texas A&M, but they couldn't get over that hump. And Mike has come in and said, we don't have to settle. We want to be one of those elite teams. And I think he knows what it takes to do that. No one's just going to appoint you, right? Jimbo used to say this when it was just a 4-team playoff. No one's giving you their chair. You got to yank that chair away from those 4 teams and then go sit in it. You've got to do that. And I think that's what Mike is instilling, that championship mindset. What's it take to be a champion? That's what they're doing every day. That's what they've been doing every week.
Well, I'm just going to be honest with you. I mean, obviously, I follow the Dogs over here. So there's a whole lot of what you're saying there that, sounds really, really familiar. And that's what I was getting at about the whole ball-knowing, hard-nosed, X's and O's kind of coach, right? Because it is those little things. You don't have to do anything except look back to what happened on Saturday night in our game and understand that nobody says Texas isn't a great team, that they aren't talented, but being on that stage and then doing the little things that make the difference in that sort of environment under those bright lights is what makes the difference in a game like that. So this is an opportunity for Texas A&M to have that national spotlight, certainly inside the conference. Maybe if you're in the Northeast, you're not watching as closely, maybe. Right. But inside the conference here, everybody's paying attention to this game because neither of these teams are on the Dogs schedule. But you better make sure to know that I'm paying attention because we could see them, right? It could still play out that way.
They may end up being on the schedule, right? Yeah. They may not end up because either in Atlanta or possibly in the postseason. Yeah.
Exactly right. So as we look at the game itself and you start to look to keys of the game, like what might turn it for A&M, right? Because again, I think people might know Connor Wegman, they might know Garrett Nussmeier, but there are talented players on that Texas A&M defense that maybe people aren't as aware of, or maybe they don't know who Wegman's throwing the ball to, right? What would you look at and say these are going to be the keys, the determining factors as we watch this thing play out on Saturday?
First and foremost, who wins the line of scrimmage? I think it's that simple. I really do. Connor's not going to be able to do anything he can do, but he's been able to because of that offensive line. Le'Veon Moss has been a bit of a revelation for people because of that offensive line. Wide receiver-wise, Noah Thomas. Can't teach 6'6". You can't teach how to win a 50-50 ball like Ja'Day Walker can get. Jabri Barber is healthy now from an early foot injury, and he's got experience of transfer coming in from Troy. And Cyrus Allen from Louisiana Tech. Those are some of the receivers that he throws to. But I'm going to tell you now, and look, the Aggies just lost Chase Basantes. He's not going to play, but it's the unsexy part of the game that determines everything. But I can tell you it's Trey Zune at left tackle. It's going to be TJ Shanahan at left guard. It's going to be Kolinu Ufayu is going to be the center. It's going to be Amaji Reed-Adams at right guard. Demetrius Cronover is going to be at that right tackle. Those 5 protecting Connor and opening holes for Le'Veon Moss is going to do wonders. And on the other side, can the Aggie defensive line win? And it's going to be difficult. Will Campbell is an outstanding left tackle. Emory Jones, that experience of that line on the right side. But that battle between Scorton and either Campbell or Nick Scorton and Emory Jones is going to be something. And on the other side, it's Cassius Howe, who comes from Bowling Green. It's the interior where I think the Aggies have really been good with Albert Regis, Shamar Turner. Shamar not going to the NFL and staying for one more year and putting on 30 pounds of muscle and just being that interior presence. That's Nnamdi Madubuike. That's McKinley Jackson, who we've talked about in the past. That's Bobby Brown that we have talked about in the past. A reason why those D-lines allowed the Von Millers and the Myles Garretts. They've always had those guys on that D-line, and they're making their presence felt. And reverse it, is Trey Zune going up against Savion Jones? Is he going up against Braden Swinson? Because that's a team that likes to bring pressure on that defensive line. So we talk about the lines themselves. We're going to look at those tackles on both of these teams, and can those edges and those ends get the pressure. Maybe not necessarily the sacks, but last week against Mississippi State, the Aggies got the sacks, they got the hurries, and they had 9 passes broken up, 6 by the D-line, 3 by Cassius Howe. Can you get that kind of pressure? It's hard to get to Nussmeier. He's only been sacked twice. It's hard to get to Connor. He's only been sacked 3 times. It's been 7 overall, but only 3 for Connor. But can you hurry those quarterbacks? Get them off schedule. Have them out of rhythm, things like that. And Mike Elko always says, I've had teams where we've gotten 6 sacks, but that's the only pressure we got all game. So what'd you do the other 60, 70 snaps? If you can get pressure and get a quarterback off their rhythm, who's going to have a running game, right? I think if either of these teams become one-dimensional, I'll say this in fairness, I think LSU can get away with being one-dimensional more than the Aggies can. But if LSU gets the running game, that's always been the success for them in the past. I've often felt they could run as well as having those outstanding weapons on the outside. Can you bring a guy down on making a tackle and making a tackle to the ground are 2 different things. And I think that's going to be important. Kyron Lacey can make a catch and then a move, and that's the explosive play. They're not going to be as vertical as Mississippi State, but all their wide receivers are good. I know one of our scouts loves Aaron Anderson, who comes out of the slot. He thinks he is an absolute pro, may be the best of all of them, and that's not taking a shot at any of them. And they've got a great tight end in Mason Taylor, just a great one who's going to be an NFLer. I mean, there's so much talent all over. Third down, turnovers. Mike always says this, you have to have focus for 60 minutes because you don't know what one play is going to turn this game around. It could be a forced fumble, could be a pick, could be a ball that you don't pick that allows a drive to continue. I really love that mindset. And I really think these 2 teams are built similarly. Nussmeier throws for more, right? I totally get that. And the Aggies have run a little bit more. But great linebackers. Weeks has been outstanding for Perkins, hasn't he? Greg Penn, the third, is the reason why he's wearing 18 for them. Aggies have Torian York and Scooby Williams had that breakout game last week. The Aggies are better on the back end than they've been. I think Will Lee, the third, is an outstanding addition at corner. I love Des Ricks on the other corner for them. Their safeties have been really good. They've moved nickel. Losing Tyreek Chappelle hurts, but they've moved B.J. Mays as well. Jaden Hill comes from Florida to play that nickel. And I just think more weeks together, the more comfortable together, the more fun it gets to be under a Jay Bateman defense. And LSU will do that too. They force fumbles, not as many interceptions, but they will force those fumbles. Ball security is job security, as Trooper Taylor, our running back coach, always says.
There's an interesting thing here, and if I'm misreading it, let me know. But one of the keys looking back at the game Georgia and Texas just had was the fact that Ewers just isn't that mobile. Not that Carson Beck really is either, but between the two, I would probably give the edge to Carson in terms of if he has to run, he can. Now, when we look at this game and these 2 quarterbacks, I would think that maybe Connor Wegman has the advantage over Nussmeier. Not that he's a runner, just that he's more mobile. So if Nussmeier is back behind that talented offensive line with those strong tackles, what you were saying about them being able to get to a more static target could be the difference in the game, because that's exactly what we just saw this last Saturday. The Dogs could get after Ewers, and that just sped up his clock, had him seeing ghosts. I'm wondering if you think A&M has the ability to do that to Nussmeier, even with that really good offensive line that LSU has, because Texas has some first-round talent on, at offensive tackle as well. So I see it very similarly. Am I just wrong there, or do you think that they can do it?
I think they can. I do. And again, I think it's because it's not just one person on that defensive line that you can chip and that's going to be it. You're going to get pressure from all over the place. You're going to get pressure up the middle from Regis and Turner, and then DJ Hicks, and then Rodas Katachu Johnson, who comes from Wisconsin. And then on the edges with Stewart, Howe, Scorton, a youngster that they love in Ryland Kennedy, and keeping them fresh. Yeah, I think you can. What's been different about the quarterbacks the Aggies have seen, except for Graham Mertz at Florida, they've all been mobile quarterbacks. Brady Cook can get on the move. Now, they forced Brady Cook to move because of that pressure, but he could. But Lagway at Florida, Kyron Green at Arkansas. These guys who can get out and hurt you if you over pursue and give that escape lane. Van Buren's going to be a good one at Mississippi State now. And there were a couple times that he was able to scoot on out of there if Nussmeier stays in the pocket. Connor's, again, he's mobile enough because he played baseball, right? But I think sometimes it's just that very simple, can I just shift to my right a couple of steps and buy myself a little bit more time? That's where I think Connor is really, really good, really developed that. And he's got the strong arm as well. He's got to protect and progress a little bit better than I thought he did at Mississippi State. But if you saw him play against Missouri, he's so good at throwing to those open windows. That's what he was able to do against the Tigers. That is his strength and that trust of receivers who I think are better than they've been in the past. But no, I think you nailed it. I think that when you look at that, they're going to have to get pressure because if Nussmeier's confident, you don't throw for 2,200 yards just because you're thrown up there and run underneath and catch it. They're going to have to get pressure and get him off his platform.
So I've just got one more thing for you here. And again, Andrew, thank you so much for taking time and hanging out with us for just a few. But just to sort of put a bow on everything here, and I actually have several questions, but I don't want to keep you forever. When you look,
I don't have anything till Saturday at 5:30, guys. That's when the pregame starts.
Well, there you go. Then let's talk some ball. Let's talk some ball. Let's do it.
Well, let me tell you, Randy, before you ask your question, I just want to point this out. Our friends in the chat right here, not only do are they showing some love to Elko there at Texas A&M, but also they are giving Texas the business in the chat.
The what for? Here. The what for in the hell now?
Yeah, just love it. So giving Elko some love and giving Texas the business. I love it.
I like that myself. All right. So this is when you look at, we've talked about the quarterbacks, we've talked about the trenches, we've mentioned the defenses, that sort of stuff. The thing we haven't really talked about, though, is the matchup between these two head coaches. Yeah. And when the season started, I'm sure if you watch college football, you will remember that LSU goes on the road, loses to what has proven to be not a great USC team. And we saw that Brian Kelly was pounding the table, saying it's the same stuff, right? We're doing the same stuff. We're no smarter than we were. And now all they've done is just keep winning since then. And you look at Texas A&M, and yeah, they're not like blowing everybody out of the water here. But as you pointed out, they've done what they needed to do. It's a long game, and they're moving right along according to what Elko would like to see them do. So if we're just talking about the head men and the jobs that they've done from game one to where we are now, who would you give the advantage to in the coaching matchup? Because I pointed out early in the year, this is year 3 for Brian Kelly at LSU, and that's usually a big year for Brian Kelly, year 3 over his career. And you've got Elko, who's not new to the head coaching game. He's not new to the SEC. So he cut his teeth as a defensive guy, right? So it's not like this is a new kid on the block necessarily. He knows how to coach football. So between these two, who might you give the advantage to? And I understand you're wearing the Texas A&M there, but I know
where you're coming from. Yeah. And I'm not disputing what you said. College football is different because I'm with you. Coaches in their third years have the identity. The portal has changed that a little bit, don't you think, Randy?
No,
like you still have to learn your teams. Now here's Garrett Nussmeier, who's been there, and Mike praised Garrett by saying, "Look, he could have left at any time to go be a starter. He stayed. As he said, he did all the right things. Stayed there, learned the system. They're comfortable with him. So you can't argue with 7-1, right? He won the bowl game, and every time someone got hurt, Nussmeier came in, filled in. Then Jaden Daniels comes in, and I get it. It's Jaden Daniels. You know, I'm not going to. But Nussmeier was the golden child going there. They loved him, and now he's run with the opportunity. Very comfortable, but it's a different offensive coordinator this year. Mike Denbrock's at Notre Dame, right? So you have that, but I give him that credit. Brian's been with this team for 3 years, so I give BK that credit of being a little more comfortable in what they do. Mike, this is his first year with the new players, getting more comfortable. Let's also not forget, Mike coached with Brian at Notre Dame before Mike came to Texas A&M. This becomes fascinating to me. Yeah. Two guys who started in D3 or D2 and worked their way up. Mike was at, I think the Merchant Marines, right? Richmond, Then Bowling Green was the opportunity. Then Wake Forest with Dave Clawson. Then Notre Dame, A&M gets the head coaching job. Brian Kelly has success at Grand Valley State. Great D2 program, right? They were constantly champions. Central Michigan takes a shot in the MAC, wins there. Cincinnati. Then you go to Notre Dame, and you're the all-time winningest at Notre Dame. Brian Kelly can coach now. Like I said, the expectations are different. When he wins 10, LSU wins 11. Yeah, okay, I get it. That 29 teams one of the best of all time. I get it under Ed O. So Brian can coach, and he can coach under those expectations. I don't think LSU it can't be any bigger than Notre Dame. I just don't think that. But it's different in kind of the same way because in that state, right, you have that. But Brian Kelly's also a guy who they flubbed the first game against Florida State, and what happened at the end of that year? We can't just say week one that's not your identity all the time. Can you grow? And I was talking with Chris Blair this week. He thought the South Alabama win was the one where they corrected all the mistakes, and it was so much cleaner in that game. And I thought the Ole Miss, I asked him, that Ole Miss overtime game was a key game. I thought the Florida win for the Aggies was a key game, road win. Yes, they followed up with another road win, right? They hadn't done that in a long time. And I thought the Missouri game. That's why I say there's so much similarities. Brian's been on that sideline before. What I give credit for everyone that Mike has coached with, they've allowed Mike to coach that defense. So he gets that. And as I told you, everybody who's ever played for Mike said he is a master at adjustments at halftime. He doesn't wait for the next game. But who am I to argue with over 300 wins, right? For Brian. I give that. As I say that, Mike will not back down to anyone. And again, who's playing? Like I thought Eli Drinkwitz may have said it this week or last week. He goes, we tried to win the game at Kyle Field from the press box. The players play. Players will play for Mike Elko. And I think players will play for Brian Kelly. I will say that. I think it's almost a wash. I don't think there's going to be something where he's going to outthink anybody. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's going to happen on either sideline, or they're going to be mystified by this, or he does this and gets it's the players are going to play. It's the same way I say, why is Death Valley tough to play in Baton Rouge? Is it the fans or is it the talent on the field? Why is Kyle Field so hard? Because they had the wrecking crew there under R.C. Slocum. That's what made it hard. Bryant Denny is not intimidating. The talent on the field is intimidating. Sanford Stadium, because of what Kirby Smart has built there, is a tough place to win. I get things about, Tennessee wasn't difficult. Josh Heupel's made it even more difficult now, right? LSU wasn't winning under Jerry DiNardo, so Death Valley wasn't hard then. You know what I mean? So it's the talent that's being assembled. Those players are going to do it. Yes, the 12th man's going to want to make a difference. Yes, the black alternate uniforms are going to be the energy there. It's going to be awesome when they run out of the tunnel. It's going to be awesome. They're going to be revved up on kickoff. And then what are you going to do the other 59 minutes, right? That's what's going to be it. But I just think Mike relates so well with his players. Yes, it's new. Yes, they're ahead of schedule. But he's not shying away that this is now where we are. You've put yourself in that situation. I don't know if there's an advantage. But if I had to be fair, Brian's got more wins on that sideline than Mike. Brian Kelly can coach. 10-win seasons, how many that he has, you just have to say he's been an absolute success. And I thought it was a home run hire for LSU because they were talking Lincoln Riley, dodged that bullet. Mark Stoops, dodged that bullet, right? Who else was being, we were all saying, well, Lincoln Riley doesn't want to coach in the SEC. Why would you not, to me, why would you not want to take that? But OU was going into the SEC, but he goes to SC, right? And having those problems there. So, yeah, I think it takes a special person to coach at LSU. I think it takes a special person who not only coach, but you have to get Texas A&M. So whatever they said nationally, you didn't. Mike Elko's only at Duke. 4 years, he knows what Texas A&M is. All schools are like that. I think you have to understand where you are coaching and what that school is and what they represent. I think that 4 years for Mike Elko allowed him to do that. Other things like attention to detail and how he structured and the coaches that he brought in and the relationship with Texas high school coaches, all that's all that goes into the success.
Yeah, and just you were listing off those names. Another name that popped into my mind there was I actually heard someone say that LSU would live to rue the day that they let Billy Napier leave the state. Right now,
he was never going there. He was never going. They would never accept someone from Louisiana being. Isn't that something? But I remember that, and I'm like, and I thought Billy would be a home run hire for Florida.
Mm-hmm. And
I did. Now, do they have the patience? I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. That's what's changed. Mac Brown years ago said, "You win a national championship, you buy yourself 5 years." That's gone. That timeline is gone. Ed O is a classic example. Now, it was off the field stuff that did it, right? But that I don't know if you have the patience. I talked to Jimbo when Mark Stoops' name was there for Kentucky. I asked Jimbo because Mark was Jimbo's DC at Florida. And he said, Mark said he's loyal to Kentucky because they had the patience with him. So give Mitch Barnhart some credit for that if things went askew or they gave him some time to build that. But now with NIL and with the portal, it kind of changes things and it accelerates everything now. And I wonder if it's decelerating the patience by some schools.
I believe it has to be. And to your point on Napier at Florida, there are bigger issues at Florida than the head coach, right? That athletic
Dan Mullen did them no favors when he left. That's what fans never understand. Exactly. How do you leave a program?
And Joe and I were talking about this last week, just about at the beginning of the season, I wasn't sure he was going to be able to make it until Georgia, Florida. Sitting here now, and especially if they had beaten Tennessee in a game they very easily could have, I would be like, yeah, he's bought himself at least another year. And in the background, everything I've heard says that everybody who is a decision maker, they're fine with what's happening, understanding the schedule, where they were, the process, the plan, all those things with regards to Napier. Now, do I know any of that from firsthand knowledge? No, but that seems to be the underpinning. Meanwhile, you have fans and everyone talking around the program who are just pitchforks and torches. But I think if they can play out this string, not lose to Florida State at the end of the year, I think Billy is probably going to survive because now they're having to play the young kid at quarterback who's shown a lot of promise and it has made a difference for them. So I think right now they're probably just going to roll with him down there.
Yeah, and I thought when we played him because he was alternating, and again, Mertz goes out because of the concussion, and DJ Lagway is someone that the Aggies were on. He's from Willis, Texas. Mm-hmm. It's interesting, but he stayed with the substitution every series. Where I thought that might hurt him is if you are in that portal and you're coming for your final year, do you want to be in that rotation or do you want to be the guy? Because Mertz won that job coming out of camp, right? Yep. Then he gets the concussion. I get he can't play. I get it. And then to be fair, you want to see if he's healthy. You want to make sure you want to be fair to Lagway. But if you're someone in the transfer portal, I don't know if I want to go in that situation. Not saying that you need to have the job. If you compete, win the job, and then all of a sudden you're back competing because you did nothing to lose that job. I thought that might be hard for recruiting. Or are you doing it to try to keep the recruit? Like I think they're in a better situation by picking one. That's just me. You have to have a 1 and you have to have a 2. But I'm an old soul, right? But someone had to win that out of camp. Connor Wigman won the job out of camp. Didn't mean that there may not have been packages for Marcel Reed for what he does or for Jalen Henderson what he does. I just thought that was very tricky to navigate. And then at a certain point, Mertz had a great drive against A&M, and then you go right back to Lagway, and I thought it's playing into A&M's hands because Lagway doesn't have the snaps yet. Nothing to do with talent. What Jay Bateman was going to show him, Lagway has not seen. Hard to do that for a young quarterback or to a young quarterback. Will he be good? I think he will. Will Van Buren be good? Yeah, I think he will. They're so good, but you can't just snap a finger and say, "Hey, you've got experience." No, it's exactly a little bit with it's a little bit with Connor. You play 4 games, out for the season. Connor never got to go through an SEC season and playing all those games on the road. There's some things that he still needs to learn with that. It's not a ton of snaps, but it's more than Marcel Reed. And give Marcel credit in his 3 starts. It's almost 4 when you count the bowl game last year. But there's things that he hasn't seen and you just don't process, as opposed to 2 years down the line, he's going to get there and, oh, yeah, I've seen that before. and I'm going to do this. I thought the year under Bobby Petrino was good for Marcel Reed. I'll give you guys an example. I'm in the quarterback room in camp last year, and they call up plays, and Bobby was asking all the quarterbacks, what do you see and what are you going to call? And he goes to Connor, and he goes to Max Johnson, and he goes to Jalen Henderson because they're the older guys. Then he gets to Marcel, and the play comes up, right? And Marcel looks at it, and he starts going into a discussion. And Bobby stopped him. And he said, Marcel, look at the field again. 3 receivers on this side, 2 on the defense. Cut the field in half. You're going over there, right? Those little things that you identify quickly, like, is this a trap? You know what I mean? But that's why he learned, and I think that's why he became the number 2 for that, all that learning. Hard when you're alternating like that. Again, do you get some rhythm? Not easy for the rest of the offensive line. Florida couldn't run in that game, so it forced Lagway to be one-dimensional. So, yeah, again, external pressures. It's like the external pressure at Auburn is different from anywhere else, right? Hugh Freeze on the hot seat. How many coaches are you going to pay, right? Yep. But if the boosters want to pay them, who are we to say? But how many are you going to pay? And what is going to satisfy them? Again, when the patience shrinks, you have guys that we don't think should be on hot seats or something like that end up being that way.
So real quick, before I'm gonna give Joe an opportunity here to pick your brain on for right after this, because I just have one final question about Weigman, and that is, yeah, he was great against Mississippi State. A&M was great against Mississippi State, but about him particularly, can he replicate that over the course of the season? Because you just touched on it. He hasn't played the full season. That's him at his best. What are the odds that he's going to be able to do that week over week over week? Or is
I think
the consistency thing?
No, I don't think you. I think it is consistency because Notre Dame wasn't good. McNeese was for first half, and then the shoulder. Like everyone's like, well, how could he play against McNeese? The shoulder didn't hurt against McNeese. Mike would never do that, right? So he doesn't play. Comes back before Missouri. There's soreness over the course of the week. The soreness had to go away, and that's why it was always a game time decision. So he does that. But when you've seen Connor Weigman, there's been that consistency in the past, even when he took over for Haynes King. Like his debut was when Haynes hurts his arm at South Carolina trying to make a comeback. It's hard. But you saw what he did in his first start against Ole Miss. He throws for 337. And then you see later in that year, he's completing, I'm trying to remember, 22 of 26, right? 18 of 22 against Missouri. Like when he's in his career, all 4 of his interceptions have come this year. That's to me, that's the outlier, right? And you're like, stared him down or something like that. I think he's been more consistent than inconsistent. But again, the more reps that he gets, you see the arm talent, you see the decision making, you see that the footwork is cleaned up. Like that surprised us all against Notre Dame. And he came back and said, it was my footwork. Well, why can't he correct it? Because he didn't really, it never happened to him before. You know what I mean? And how much do you put into, is my line going to protect me against Notre Dame? Because let's talk about an Al Golden defense, right? They played together for 3 years. Yeah. Marcus Freeman's given them that freedom. You're not throwing to one side. You've got, a defense that is very comfortable together. And then Connor's got, are they going to protect me? Because just a year ago, he hurts the ankle when he gets sacked against Auburn. I think all those things come in, and then with that peace of mind and the confidence, and then knowing that his head coach has his back. So right after that Missouri win, Mike gets to the podium and he says, all the naysayers, and he wasn't talking to the media in general. He was talking to social media and those pundits. He basically put him in the place. And he said, this is my guy. Quick to say, hey, Marcel was ready also. Like, I get that. This is my guy. When you have that confidence, that's outstanding. And Mike said this on his coach's show on Wednesday. It's the 2 positions that take the most heat in football, head coach and quarterback. Fair or unfair, they do. Yeah, you've got to have a special makeup. That's why the Joe Burrows of the world are special, right? I give it to Jackson Dart, right, at Ole Miss. Special. Stetson Bennett, special. You're getting it from all sides. Good enough is never good enough for fans. And they lead their teams. That's what matters. Will your line, can you trust that line? Will the receivers trust you? Will you make the right call? Do your coaches trust you? Those are the ones who matter. You know what I mean? When you do that. That's Nick Saban's rat poison, right? That's quiet the noise. All of that. You're playing for the other 84 on that roster.
Right. And see, fans, this is why it's great to have Andrew on here, because he's telling you, he's telling you the truth. There are football truths. And especially those of you who follow the channel here regularly, just look at what's happening in Athens. You know how Dog Nation can be. But yet Kirby stepped right up to the podium after the game Saturday night and said, I thought Carson played pretty well. His receivers dropped 8 balls, right? And he talked about the other things that are shifting sands in his world. Yet they trust him to make the right call, get him in the right play, do the right thing, right? And that's what Monica's talking about right there. Joe,
I don't want to make this Pollyanna, but you're right. It's not always the quarterback's fault. Did the receiver run the right route? Did you make that block? Did that receiver over on this side make? I get it, but that's the unfair part. Oh, incomplete pass. Oh, that's Connor's mistake. Was it really?
Not more often than not. That's not the case. But Joe, I mean, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to ask a question here if you had one.
Well, really, I've been watching the chat while I've been listening to my boy Andrew here. Just lay it down for us like that.
Getting myself in trouble, I believe, that's all I'm doing.
Hey, Raj, all I got to say, brother, that glow that you see on the old dome here is not the SEC ring, Carol, which you saw me do that, by the way. It's just that glow that I get, Raj, when Alabama loses, right? So, just know that. It's a glow that I get. And the only question really is, how many times will I be right? And will you see that glow? Raj, you kicked me off the show, buddy. But anyway, we get back to Monaco here. The only question I have is,
everybody thinks we all root for the other 15 schools, right? That's furthest thing from the truth, baby. Not true at all.
Okay,
not true at all. The only question I really had is, how did I go 2 years in a row now? I got my boy Chris Blair. We had him on the show a week or so ago. Got my boy Monaco on here with me now. How is it that I'm not in LSU and I wasn't in Texas A&M? I keep missing the boat, man. I'm like, hey, I got to come visit my boys. And then every year I let the game roll around, and here I am sitting in the DUB.
They put the schedule out in March. What do you do? What are you doing? The schedule comes out. We all wait for it. We all circle the games, right? And if we were smart, we'd have bought tickets back then, because trying to get them now has been absolutely impossible.
Out of control. Okay, so let's bring it back to the field right here, Britton. We can let you get out of here, because Joe and I got to pick all these other games here before we stay here all night. But my final thing, growing up, it was always really easy for me to love the Texas A&M game every year. Just as a football fan, loved it. And then, of course, you have the tragedy. Then the game gets suspended. We don't play for 2 decades now, essentially. So I'm just going to say, and I've been saying since the summer, whether it makes sense or not on paper, I just have a feeling that A&M is going to bloody Texas's nose at the end of the year. Now, that's just me with a gut feeling. I know that you've got one game in front of you right here, a big one. But if you will, just look on down the road and just think, how do you see that game now that they're back in the same conference? And it really does matter. Like, you could really end, their hopes of titles and so on, or they yours, right?
Yeah. It's funny because, when the schedule came out, everybody looked to November 30th. And I'll give you Mike's line. We got 11 games in between. Pretty important games too, right?
Yep.
But that's what we do as fans. Let's be honest. That's what we do as fans. And you look at that. And to have the rivalry renewed, because other sports have played, it's been a one-off. Now it's in the conference. The NCAA, when it came to tournament time, always was going to be clever, and it was going to be Texas playing Texas A&M, or they were going to be on a path, and one team was going to be underseeded, and it was usually A&M was going to be underseeded. Look at softball last year. They never should have been a 16 seed. Look at Des Moines a couple years ago in basketball. We never should have been that low of a seed, finishing second in the conference. Am I bitter? Yeah, a little bit, because they were both going to be in Des Moines. You know what I mean? Like, Texas was never underseeded until baseball this year. But a lot of people don't remember. They were the 3 seed going into that regional with Louisiana and with Grambling. You know what I mean? But they wanted that collision course. Now they can't do it because we're in the same conference. It may be somewhere down the line. But to do it back for football, to get back into Thanksgiving weekend, you're getting back. The SEC has inherited the Red River Shootout. I know it's rivalry. I'm an old soul. It's the old Red River Shootout before we all got PC, right? They inherited that rivalry. They inherited a lot of hate in Arkansas and Texas. They should be playing. There's a lot of hate in that rival. Arkansas, there's a reason why they jumped to the SEC in 91, right? There's a reason why they got out of the old Southwest Conference and they weren't going into the Big 12. They inherit Texas and Texas A&M. They inherited, they don't have Missouri, right? So that wasn't, but you have this now that comes into the conference. And to go with that, it's a line that I heard. It's not, it just means more. It just means more to more people, or it just means more to Aggies, that rivalry, to Longhorns, that rivalry, the bragging rights within the state. You know what I mean? You have that. The nose being out of joint, and that, there's a reason why, A&M took a lot of grief going into the SEC from Texas and the rest of the Big 12 schools. My feeling was this: you can put your nose out of joint, but if I'm Baylor, if I'm Tech, why didn't you have a non-conference matchup? Why did you not bring A&M into your building for a sellout? The Battle of the Brazos was A&M and Baylor, but they were so stubborn about what happened. And then 13 years later, this is all I want. Someone from Texas saying, you guys were right all along. It took them 13 years. You know what I'm saying? I'm serious about that. Yeah, there's so much grief. Whether it was from DeLoss Dodds, whether it was from President Bill Powers, who dropped the old, we'll take care of you. Well, we're not going west any longer. The irony is it probably would have saved the Pac-16 at the time had all those schools moved, right? But the Aggies looked east, took a lot of grief. 13 years later, they're in the conference with us. Same thing with OU. I just, again, because of all of that, someone has to explain to DeLoss Dodds that he's not rescheduling. He's not the one to schedule this matchup. The SEC did. And I think to be at Kyle Field, to have it at home in what could be a special season, again, a whole lot. This is what Texas has to navigate. It's what OU's finding. It's hard week to week. This is why you give so much credit to Georgia for what they've done, Alabama for what they've done. They're everybody's marquee game. Saturday in Starkville. Yes, they're 1-5. What's the old Rich Brooks line when he was at Kentucky? When you play Mississippi State and you wake up the next morning, you know you played Mississippi State. That's what you face in the SEC. Can I also go on record and say there's no way Georgia should have been out of the playoff last year for losing to Alabama in an SEC championship game? They got it wrong last year. They got it wrong. And I'm not just saying that because I'm on the show. Florida State should have been in there. Georgia should have been in there. And then you take two other ones out. I don't understand how you can have a long winning streak, lose a championship game, and get knocked out. I don't know how you go undefeated. Doesn't matter if you have your quarterback or not. They just told me that defense doesn't matter. You can pitch a shutout in the ACC championship, but that doesn't matter. Who are they to say? I'm going to say this as well. How many times did they put Notre Dame in, and Notre Dame did not play well in the playoffs?
Oh, yeah. Don't even get me started on some Notre Dame. No.
God, I feel better now.
Yeah. There you go.
Anytime you need to release the pressure on the valve, man, give us a break. Yeah. We'll bring you on.
Come on.
This is the safe space over here.
So I'm thinking I'm hoping they don't mess up the 12, but I just don't have faith when it comes to eye tests and things like that. And maybe it is better that there is 12. You know what I mean? Maybe it is because we've been so used to East and West in the SEC, right? Can you get out of the West? Oh, who's going to come out of the East, right? And then you're going to have that matchup. Now we're just bludgeoning each other, which I think just speaks to the depth of the SEC. Like I was saying, I love beating Missouri because I could sit back and watch the carnage for the rest of the day. And then bye week, I'm like, man, sucks to be them. Man, It really stinks. That's a good win, this and that. And then you get back on the carousel. And it's why I have gray hair. It's why I have no fingernails. It's like it's just a typical SEC Saturday.
The biggest question when it comes down to committee time, to me, just because you brought up last year, is going to be when you look across what has happened inside this conference, how do you weight it against what's happening in the other conferences? I caught a stat or a statistical. I'm going to call it an anomaly because it seems too weird for it to be the truth. But I was checking out the fellas over at College Football Nerds, and they do a good job over there of breaking out statistically what these things look like. And essentially, I can get to the bone here and tell you that the bottom half of the Big Ten. So they have 18 teams, I think it is?
Yeah.
The bottom half of the Big Ten, so 9 teams, would all be underdogs to Mississippi State. So let that sink in. Let that sink in.
Wow.
And think about the fact that inside
and that's
the
the Big
SEC,
Ten.
That's right.
That's the Big Ten. Yeah.
That's the Big Ten. And then think about the fact here inside the SEC, you've got, there's 16 teams. There's 9 or 10 of those 16, I forget the exact number, that are top 40 squads, right? So we're not talking about the best in the SEC. We're talking about a team that's now 1-6, and they would be favored over the bottom half of the Big Ten today. So
look, I think it's every sport, because I do baseball as well. You can play whatever you wanted to do in the non-conference. When you're playing 30 SEC baseball schools, your RPI has to go up. It has to, and you're tested for the postseason. I'm going to say the same thing about football. I think strength of schedule. Everyone else may not like it. You know what? They're not playing this schedule. They're not doing this every week.
They don't like it. You talk to the people at USC, right, out west. You talk to the people at Michigan last year. All you heard was just about what the Big Ten is versus. I'm like, fellas, you just don't understand. And everything I've been talking about this week on my pod and the video I released today is just laying it out again. Texas is great. They're fine. But you don't know until you line it up week over week. And I understand that they're playing Vandy this week. Did you see the bit of trolling that came out of Vandy today, whether it was on purpose or not, about the netting going up? In case you missed it, friends, this is beautiful. So they put up temporary netting in front of the visitor seating at Vandy's new stadium ahead of Texas coming into town this week. And I get that the Texas people don't like the fact that the rest of the SEC is talking about them this way right now. But I said it. I'm like, you guys did it. Whether you wanted it or not, you have a reputation right now inside the conference, and it's not real good, right? It's simply not, because of the way they have acted in the interweb world, right? Their fan base that precedes their team. And then you have what happened at night, last Saturday with on the field stuff. There's a reputation there, fair or not. That's what it is, and they're going to have to carry that for a while. It's a heck of a way to saunter into this conference and introduce yourself to everybody. And I'll just leave it. I couldn't believe Vandy did that though, and I'm like, is this trolling at a max level, or are we just keeping everybody safe? What are we doing?
Come on, give Vandy some credit. Give Vandy some credit. When was the last time they got to troll anybody?
It's Clark Lee's job to lose Coach of the Year, right? Especially after a move like that.
Yeah. Well, it's like he said, you don't just walk into Nashville and win. I mean, that's his new statement this week. So, and speaking
Herb and Rod, you understand, don't you?
Oh, good Lord. Speaking of walking into anywhere, can we just come and break bread at the table and just say it is just unconscionable that my Georgia Bulldogs have not made a trip out to face Texas A&M with all the years that they've been in the league. I know A&M came.
We've played once.
Yeah,
we've played once. 2019.
I can't believe that we haven't.
We've never been to Kentucky.
Oh,
we've never been to Kentucky. And I think if COVID, when they redid the schedules, that was our first time at Tennessee, although I believe they were on the schedule. So,
it's tough.
I'm with you. I kind of like that it's going to change, and we're going to see teams a little more frequently. I think that will be fun. I really do. Mm-hmm. I know South Carolina was the permanent partner for us, and that they're still on the schedule. So that's kind of been fun. Early Florida, but then didn't play Florida for a long time. I want to say COVID was the next time that we did that, or maybe before then I had done that. But yeah, isn't that something? Georgia's never been to Kyle Field, and when we did the game at Sanford Stadium, what an atmosphere. Just loved it. And I had gone there lifetime ago, when I was still in the state of Florida working in Orlando. And I was filling in for UCF basketball, and they're playing at Georgia. And I had to walk through Sanford Stadium. It's December. I think it had snowed. I couldn't care less. I was cutting through, and I was going to do that. I was getting to Stegman Coliseum that way. I don't know if it was the right way, if it was the right directions, but I had to go there because as a kid growing up, right? Every time Herschel Walker was on, that shot from ABC, and that not only were the stands filled, but in that old stadium, everyone on the road is
The railroad
watching.
tracks,
And to
right,
me,
yeah.
I said this, there are certain places that are bucket list places in college football. I think that's one of them. And if you only go buy a ticket and watch the opening kickoff, if you don't get chills, I don't know who you are. I just don't. Kyle Field, I think, is that way. I really do. Not just because I'm an Aggie. It's fun. When that place starts swaying, it's something different. My first game, my partner looked at me and he said, "Can you feel it swaying?" And I'm like, "Yes, I can." It was a blast. I think Death Valley's like that at LSU. Ohio State's going to be like that. Happy Valley at Penn State's going to be like that. Like I get that pageantry is something. But man, to me, it's the separator between college football and everything else is just how it's a total Saturday. It's not just the 3.5 hours. Or as Mike Elko joked when we played LSU 7 overtimes, that was 5.5 hours. He also said, remember that final score. Defense wasn't doing an awful lot in that one. Because they scored 72 on us and we won. That's what I love about Mike. He can be self-deprecating as well. But it's just that pageantry and all of it, and to meet other fans and be there. Yeah, I like to experience. I'd been to Florida Field before, but I'd never done a game there. So this past year to go there and do a game there was an absolute blast. I love that. And I can truly say, when I no longer get that feeling, that's when I'm getting out. That's when I know it's over. I'm in the wrong business, but campuses and stadiums and arenas and ball fields, it still gets me kind of jazzed. Game nights are just an absolute blast.
Andrew, I've been doing this more than a quarter century myself, right? And being in those places, I still get butterflies. I still understand that I'm the luckiest little kid on the block. You know what I mean? And so I'm right there with you. The minute I don't want to get fired up to go do it is the minute I'll find something else to do. But I don't see that day coming.
Here's the dirty little secret, right? And I'm going to have to whisper this. They pay us. They pay us to do this. But I said it softly. It softly. Yeah,
I know.
Quietly, they don't have to, but I'm so glad they do.
Man, it sure does. It sure does help everybody else feel better about me having to go to the game. You know what I mean? I have to go to the game because they're giving me money. But that's
my job.
How that goes.
I got to slave at something, so I might as well slave at this.
There you go. And just to make you feel even more comfortable, and just know you're always welcome to come on back whenever you're ready. Maybe we'll have a championship preview or something coming up a little bit later. We'll see how that goes. But just know that this is the realm. We are about to go down and take on those Gators in the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. So I don't mind at all if you still refer to it as the Red River Shootout.
I know they say rivalry. I like that. That's what we knew it as. Look, Vern Lundquist called it that when he was doing the game, when he first came to CBS. So Vern says it. It's trademarked then, isn't it?
It's been that. I'm 48. It's been that way my entire life up until, a little while back.
What do they call it? What is the politically correct?
World's largest tailgate? I don't even know. It's clear I haven't paid that much attention to it. Because
isn't it funny? Like those of us are like, no, we're not ignoring what you're now. I understand. Like we've got certain things that we have to do. Like I get our partners and all of that. But when it comes to that, like I'm not. No, it's world's largest outdoor cocktail party.
Yeah, world's largest WLOCP. Just go ahead and hashtag it. Drop it on your Twitter feed.
Okay, because I'm the train that will now jump the track.
Okay.
Will that game ever go on campus again? Do you think?
No, it's going to happen. It's going to happen in the next couple of years because they have to do some renovations down in Jacksonville again, right? But that game, means too much. It means too much to the people in Jacksonville, in the municipality, but also to the big dollar donors who own houses or essentially rent islands the weekend of that game, the week of that game, and the money that they donate to their respective universities, right, are going to dictate that if Florida or Georgia has an opinion about whether or not that game should stay, they're going to be like, well, do you want my donation? If so, then you keep that game in Jacksonville. And that's how that goes. Now, if you ask Kirby Smart, he wants it home and home. Right?
Sure.
For a couple of different reasons. The recruiting reason, and then also he was actually on the field in 95 when Spurrier came into Athens and put 50 on the board, which breeds the hate that he has for Florida now. And that's why Georgia-Florida, it doesn't matter if Florida's any good. That game is a hellfire and brimstone game for Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs, just the way it was for Spurrier when he took on Georgia, right? Because of the Heisman Trophy and the undefeated season and all of that when Georgia beat him years ago. So that rivalry is alive and well and fantastic. Oh, which reminds me, you were talking about the rivalries that have come back into the league. I do want to give Sankey a nice round of applause here, just because the way the SEC went about expansion, and this is the standard line from the conference, but I buy into it. They are the only conference that through the course of expansion have deepened and rekindled regional rivalries that fans want. And so the teams that have come back into the conference, that's exactly what's happened. Texas A&M, Arkansas, Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, right? You can shuffle it all around, but those are classic matchups, and it just makes this game in this conference that much better, in my opinion.
Yeah, and go back, even though they were out of conference, A&M used to play LSU. My partner, Dave Elmendorf, played in that. I think it was the year. You remember the year A&M played 3 number ones? Dave said, I did that. I think he played 3 or 4 that year. But the A&M LSU game, he told me 70 Hugh McElroy. It's legendary for A&M. Dave actually had the interception at the end. It used to be a money game for A&M. LSU had the bigger stadium. Wow. It was bigger than Kyle Field. They'd gone back, but again, because of the neighboring states. And then you have the recruiting. And clarify for me, did Georgia drop the Mr. Shiny Pants on Steve Spurrier? Was that Georgia calling him that? Or was that somebody else during his Heisman year?
Oh, see, now that I can't speak on authority with, so I'm not sure about that. I'd hate to say the wrong thing and then get roasted moving forward.
Right.
But
I can't remember if that was when he became a pro, because he didn't play, if it was Mr. Shiny Pants. That's what I'm getting confused with.
Yeah, see, now,
anytime you can drop anything on Steve Spurrier, it's fine. I don't care what it is. You want to drop on it. But Herb and Carol, y'all are killing me in the chat, by the way. Love y'all. We'll check the contract, Herb.
All right. So, Andrew, just remember, the next time you see Joe or have a conversation with him, just make certain that you double check that he gives me my ring back. He stole my championship ring because the pick'em contest we have here, the only way he could get his hands on it was to snake it when he was up here visiting a couple of weeks ago.
So I visited family, stole one ring, and made my way back to the DUV with it.
You get labeled. You steal one ring and you get labeled.
I know, right? It's crazy.
So look, if we get together, my wallet's going on a chain. I'm just telling you that. I'm not taking any chances, Joe.
There you go. There it is. Tell Andrew, I want to say thank you, man. You've been way more than generous with your time. Yeah, we know I'm ready for this game in a way that I didn't know I would be. And I hope that you feel comfortable enough to come back sometime down the road. Before you run off, let everybody know anything you want them to know about how they can hear your call this Saturday night.
We have a 12th Man Mobile app, and you can get it at 12thmanmobile.com. That's for all the A&M Varsity Network app. We do through Learfield as well, and we're part of that, so you can hear our broadcast. Again, I've got my partner, Dave Elmendorf, 2-sport All-American at A&M, football, baseball, first-round pick, but he decided to go to the Rams. He was actually a first-round pick of the Yankees. Wow. Goes to the Rams, a decade there. He's a Hall of Famer as well. Will Johnson's on our sidelines. We have some fun, that's for sure. And like I said, I think Kyle Field will be electric on Saturday.
Awesome. Joe, any final words?
Thanks for being here, buddy. Appreciate you. Love you to death. And I'm always going to pick A&M. My boy Andrew Monaco's got my back.
This is where I give you the old thanks and gig 'em.
There you go.
A fact. Have a good evening. Have a great call and enjoy the game, Andrew.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Have a good one. Man. Joe, how lucky are we that we get to sit in there and chat with somebody like Andrew Monaco?
I mean, big dogs right there. Love it.
Ahead of the biggest game of the week right there. That is good stuff. And our friends in the chat, thanks for hanging in here with us. We promised Andrew, we were like, we'll keep you like 15 minutes. Don't sweat it. And then he lets us know he's got no boundaries. We go an hour. So now we're running long. Y'all are getting extra activity over here. Joe, real quick, how are you, buddy?
Man, I'm doing good. Herb, Raj, and Carol and Scotty and everybody killing me in the chats over here. I'm just loving it. Timothy and everybody. I saw somebody from Texas in there talking some smack. I'm sure y'all shut them down. But yeah, good to see you, man. Had to run a little late. Had, moving some metal in my other life. But big game going on here,
We all got to do what we got to do. Joe, real quick, let's get the people up to speed right here. You are going to like the results. Last week, Joe showed up in a way that he hasn't showed up before. All this red and green starting to look like Christmas around here. But here's
the
how
power of the ring, man.
Here's how it shook out last week. I only hit 500. I went 6 for 6. That's like one of my worst weeks ever. And showed up going 8 and 4. So you picked up a couple of games on us last week, but we are moving on. We're going to go ahead and move along here. Let me get this thing opened up right so that we can look at all these games, because I feel I'm happy everybody's hanging in here, but I feel bad that we're keeping you longer, but it's just more goodness. That's all. Just more goodness.
Just more goodness. You don't get Monica we all the time, right? I mean, we bring you the A game here. It's all good.
Yeah, that really was great of him to decide to come on with us. That was fantastic. All right, Joe, let's get this thing going here. Oklahoma is down there taking on old Blue Pants, right? Who you got?
I'm going to take old Blue Pants because Oklahoma's terrible. Yeah, and I don't even like old Blue Pants, but I'm going to take them anyway.
Yeah, they're no good. I think Ole Miss, I'm with you, man. There's no way, even if Oklahoma plays out of their minds, there's no way that Oklahoma's going to be able to score enough to keep up with Jackson Dart and those dudes at Ole Miss. Ole Miss gets the win and to improve to 6-2 and get bowl eligible for Lane and the boys. Bowl eligibility is right there for Lane and the boys. All right, Arkansas and Mississippi State. I agree with everything that's been said about that freshman quarterback that Mississippi State has. I think he's going to be a player. Now, they still got to get some more dudes in there, though. And this is the kind of game that if Sam Pittman goes in and loses it, now we're back on the hot seat. I don't think that happens. Arkansas wins the game, Joe.
Yep, I agree with you. The cowbells make no difference. Arkansas is going to get the win.
Arkansas. All right, now, Herb and Raj, we're going to slow down. Let this thing hang out here for 1 second, because here is the thing. Herb actually said on his show, I think it was the last time they were live, that if you do not pick against Alabama, he's going to start to think you're not his buddy. Now, that's a weird position to be in because you don't care much for MIZ either. So, honestly, I don't know who you're going to pick right here. I think that Alabama understands the assignment. If they lose another game, the playoff is gone. If they want any shot of making it into that playoff, they have to win out. They can claim a win over my Georgia Bulldogs, and that would probably get them into the playoff. So I'm going to go with Alabama to win the game at home. I think it might actually be homecoming at Alabama this week. So I'm going with Alabama.
This does put me in a tight spot here. And a bit of a pickle.
A pickle.
Yeah. I'm stuck between an elephant trunk and a hard spot. Oh. Let's see here. I don't know.
You got a coin? You got to flip a coin? No? Maybe?
Yeah, I don't even have my coin here, but I got this big ring on my finger. Yeah. Got that right there. And I've got got my mojo, baby. Yeah.
Mojo, baby.
Yeah. So, I'm going to pick Mizzou.
Okay.
Yeah, gonna take Mizzou. Gonna do it.
There you
Sign it, Raj. Right there on my shiny forehead. Taking Mizzou.
Kicking rocks. Here we go.
Kick rocks.
Now, this one's a lot of fun. Like I said, I mentioned it earlier. Vanderbilt with the glorious trolling job of the Texas Longhorns. Glorious. Look at you, Vanderbilt. Look at you. Yep. And I like me some Clark Lee, but that was oh man, what a move. So, Joe, is Texas going to get right against Vandy? You don't just walk into Nashville and win, Joe, according to Clark Lee.
You don't.
So, so is Pavia Power, are they going to have something for old Ewers and Arch and Sark and all those funny names they got over there?
I'll take the V. Give me Vandy. Give me Vandy.
Give
me Vandy, baby. Yeah. I'll do it.
I appreciate the fact that you said it with your whole chest. So that so that if they win, I'm gonna have to clip that off and be like, we come watch the show. It's fun over here. There you go. All right. Well, listen, I can't. And I like Vanderbilt.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I like Vanderbilt, but I'm going to go with Texas. I think that they're going to be able to do enough, assuming they're healthy. I think they're going to be more healthy as far as like Isaiah Bond is going to be back at wide receiver. So give me Texas. But I'm going to be rooting for Vanderbilt. That's just how that goes. That's how it gets down. All right, let's look at Auburn and Kentucky here before we pick this game of the week real quick. So Auburn and Kentucky, Joe, this game, what did we say before the season? Your boy sat right here and told you Auburn is going to be one of the most underwhelming, underachieving teams in the conference this year. In fact, the most underachieving team in the conference this year. I don't think it changes. I think Kentucky plays enough defense at home. Vandegrift makes a play somewhere. Auburn turns the ball over again, and Kentucky wins the game. That's who I got.
Yeah, I'm absolutely taking Kentucky because what is it? I think you got a drop for me. What about Auburn?
Oh, wait a minute. Oop, jump screens. Oh, my gosh.
Oh, see, I tried to set him up. Epic fail. There we go.
You did. That's what goes.
Auburn.
That's right.
It's always a good pick to pick against Auburn. There's never. It's fine. It's fine. All right, Joe. LSU, Texas A&M, game of the week. Everybody, game of the week. LSU, Texas A&M. Who you got, Joe Show? Who are we gonna go with?
Now, see, this is what's tough because I got both my boys out here. I got my boy Chris Blair. We had him on a couple weeks ago. Got my boy Monaco just spent an hour with us here talking all kinds of fun stuff. So, it's just, I don't know what you're going to do here. I mean, I can lose a ticket either way. You know what I'm saying? I get an invitation. But, I'm going to have to go with my boy Monaco since he was on the show with us. Chris Blair, love you, buddy. But my boy Monaco is here this week. I'm going to take Texas A&M.
I loved hearing what Andrew said, and he told me a lot of things I didn't know. But at the end of the day, I think that I'm going to go with LSU on the road just simply because I'm not sold that A&M is going to be able to rise to the right level. They've been winning and they deserve, credit for that. But something tells me LSU. So that's me. LSU, Texas A&M. But I do like Elko. I do like what they're doing. I will always pick A&M when they play Texas. So my pick on that one when we get there. But that's how we're going to do with that one. All right, Joe. Now we're moving outside the footprint here, and I have to check my notes. Yep, Pittsburgh and Syracuse, they're already playing. I'm not even going to worry about the score. Who are you going to go with right here? I mean, let's just go ahead and pick it. You want to just both take Pittsburgh? We ran long with
fine.
Andrew.
I would have taken Pittsburgh anyway.
There you go. We'll give us both a W right there. We'll both take Pittsburgh. We didn't get to it soon enough. Sorry, everybody. That's how it shakes out sometimes. Now, I got to point out here, Joe, your Liberty Flames went down. The longest winning streak in the nation ended against the winless Kennesaw State Owls. And so that happened.
Yeah, but give it up for my Kennesaw State folks over there. We got Dublin love over there on Kennesaw State sidelines. Some DUB, some players from the world famous Shamrock Bowl over there. So and I also have to give a little love to my guys over in Kennesaw because I do know some folks that hang out over there at Kennesaw State. Their play-by-play guy. I can't think of his name right now, but he's a friend of mine. So I give some love to my friends over there at Kennesaw State for the big win.
There you go. All right, Joe. Boise State, UNLV. UNLV is better since
Nolan Alexander. That's his name. My
Noel
broadcast
Alexander.
guy.
There you go. So UNLV is better since their quarterback took his ball and went home because of an NIL deal that went sideways. Boise State is ranked with the best running back in the country, potential Heisman winning player back there in Jonty. Joe, are they going to go on the road and beat the Rebels? Or is Boise State just going to keep on rolling?
They go on the road and beat the Rebels. Absolutely. Yep.
Boise State. All right. Well, I'm going to do the same. I picked against them before. I learned my lesson. I'm not going to do that again. Give me Boise State. Notre Dame and Navy, Joe. This is going to be great because Notre Dame. Notre Dame.
Oh yeah.
Hold on. Control yourself.
All
Control yourself. Notre Dame and Navy. Navy is undefeated and ranked. And they still have to play Army later this year, who runs the ball better than Navy does. And who did Notre Dame lose to earlier this year? That'd be Northern Illinois. What did Northern Illinois do? They ran the ball really good. Joe, is Notre Dame going to show up, play good defense, be able to focus and handle the mighty midshipmen?
No, let me say this. Let me back. Navy! I'm thinking Navy, baby! Yeah, absolutely. Go Navy!
That's an alley-oop right
Suck
there.
it, Notre Dame. There you go.
Joe's dunking on everybody.
Yeah.
Well, I love me some Navy midshipmen. I'm going to be rooting for the Navy midshipmen, but I'm going to pick Notre Dame to win this game. So there you go. Well, I got to get my ring back, even if I got to steal it. I don't know. Because that's how we doing it now, apparently. Honorable mention to Indiana. We're not picking your game, but we'll get to you. We'll get to you eventually. Don't worry. We'll pick you here in a little while. All right, we're going to skip on over Georgia Tech. Don't care this week. North Carolina, don't care this week. We're going to roll right on down the list here until we come up on, since it's right in front of me, let's do it. Georgia State, 2-4. App State, 2-4. But we like these universities. Joe, who are you going to go with?
Oh, you know who I'm going to go with. I got to take my boys in blue. Going to take my boys over at Georgia State.
This one's easy for me. No, this one's easy. Give me the Mountaineers. I am on App State. They got them at home. I think that's going to be the difference. Give me App State to beat Georgia State. Now,
we had Dave Cohen on the show. I'm taking State.
Okay, man. Ride with him. That's fine. Illinois and Oregon. Nobody's paying attention to this game. Oregon's a 22-point favorite. Little Illinois, they I don't know. We're going to go play, I guess. They got a shot against the Ducks out at Autzen.
Yeah, they got a shot. Oregon's 22-point favorite, total 54. Yeah. Illinois got a shot. Like, I'm really tempted to take Illinois. I'm going to take Illinois. Yeah, why not? Sure. Why not? Makes sense. Makes perfect sense. I'll take Illinois.
I think Illinois is going to play Oregon right down to the fourth quarter. I think it's going to get it. They're going to hang around. They're going to be right there. And if they mess around, it could bounce the funny way and they could win the game. But I'm going to take Oregon here. Going to take Oregon. But Illinois is I think they're going to show up and play well. All right, so we're still scrolling. Now, Joe, when I'm picking these games, notice there are actually a lot of good games this week that we could be picking. Yeah. But I am going to keep going to the ones that, provide the most flavor because, well, I like a little bit of juice. If I'm going to pick it, I want to have something I can enjoy. Talk about something nobody's going to enjoy. Nobody cares that Florida State is playing Miami this week. I'm so old that this game used to mean something. That's why we're picking it. Any shot, you take somebody other than Miami right here.
Well, of course. I mean, there's a shot. I mean, why not? I mean, there's everything in me. I'm feeling festive. Like I should be in a casino or something. You know what I'm saying? That's the way I'm feeling right now. So, there's a shot. What's the spread here? 21 for Miami. Yep. That's a pretty good spread. I am tempted to take Florida State, but there's a sensibility to me, so I'll stick with the big U.
Yeah.
Give me the U. Yeah.
Yeah, we pick wins and losses. You got to pick Miami here. This is kind of a check mark game for us, but I couldn't let it go by without us weighing in on it. Like, I'm so old that game means something.
You are old.
Oh my goodness. Look at you. All right. SMU and Duke. Now, this is a sneaky kind of game. SMU is 3-0 in the ACC. Sneaky. Duke, 2-1. 6-1, still a pretty good team. I don't know, man. Right now, it's looking like Miami, Clemson, and one of these guys, maybe.
Them Mustangs, baby. People forget them Mustangs have one of the top offenses in the country. I mean, people forget.
All right.
But you got them Dookies too. You got them Dookies. I don't know. I mean, at home.
Okay. Well, they're not the Pony Express anymore, but I'm going to take SMU. Who you got?
I'm going to take Duke.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, that kind of hurts me a little bit, but I'm going to take Duke. Yep.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. All right. Final game. Oh, wait. How did I skip past this one? I missed it somewhere. We got to scroll. Oh, there it is right there. Okay. There it is. Michigan State.
Yeah.
And Michigan. What is this? Something about brothers, like a fight between brothers or something like that's what they call this game. They play for a trophy. And I feel like a bad college football fan because I can't remember. Is this Paul Bunyan? Zach's?
It's like brothers.
Yes, trophies and brothers and stuff. Normally, I would say, give me Michigan. But you know what? I'm taking Sparty. Give me Sparty. Oh. Michigan State.
Yeah, I got my boy Jeff here, a good friend of mine in town. Our kids hang out. We like to talk smack. They're from up there. He's a Sparty. He's a Michigan State grad. I'm going with Spartans as well because Jeff is a chiropractor now. I'd hate for him to do something to my back and I can't, walk like I'm supposed to anymore. Go Sparty.
Sometimes you got to make a business decision, Joe. I'll just leave it. Right. I'll just leave it right there. All right. So we got through all the games. Awesome. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. We sort of sped through it there. Not as much of our normal bumping of the gums, but Andrew, it was great that he came on with us for a little while. Joe, thanks for reaching out to him, getting him hooked up, bringing him on here. Everybody that's in the chat, thanks for hanging out with us, especially if you made it to the end here. This one's been a lot of fun. Rod, send Herb a text. Tell him to catch the replay because there was some good stuff on here earlier. And you do the same in case you missed part of it. Everybody else, still Supreme One. Carol, 225 girl, you snuck in here. It's good to see you. Who else is in here? Who else did I miss?
I've been having fun in the chat, by the way. Sarah Howard, everybody. I've been having fun in the chat, and I appreciate that. I mean, I was laughing. I was having a good time reading the chat here. Should have been focused on Monaco, but Randy and them were talking like really important stuff. I was having fun in the chat.
Timothy, Scotty, thank you guys for hanging out with us. Joe, we will be back next week. Maybe who knows who's going to show up? We don't know.
I'll go through the old Rolodex. You never know who we're going to pull out during the show.
Yeah. So see, you will walk away from this channel being among the most well-informed fans in the SEC. And we have a good time. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. As always, take care of yourselves. Take care of your friends, your families. Take care of each other. And go Dogs!